it's good for all of us to revisit the foundational basic principles of seed starting. If you want to finish something right, you got to start it right. And Noe's going to walk us through that. So we're very proud and appreciative of Noe coming up from down in the southeast to visit us today. And I hope you will make him welcome and thank him and help him to do a good job here, because I know he's got a little bit of nervousness, but I think he's going to do fine. So please help us welcome Noe Hernandez.
Thank you, Martin. Well, like Martin said, my name is Noe, and I'd like to start by thanking Jared for inviting me to be a part of this great event. Ever since I known about it, I've been wanting to come and check it out for myself. My wife is right here in front, and she'll tell you, actually, I didn't sleep that well last night just because I was excited to be here. And I'm not here to really teach anyone anything. In fact, I can guarantee you that most of you can teach me a few things about gardening. I'm simply here to share how it is that I grow my garden back at home in South Carolina, which is where home is for now. I live there with my wife and 3 kids. And so let's go ahead and start working on a little bit of how I grow my vegetables. But before I do that, I want to tell you guys why I think that most people fail when they first start gardening, and the reason for that is because not all of us grew up having a grandfather or even your dad or someone at home that knew how to start a garden, how to tell you some of the basic stuff, which I don't think growing vegetables is that hard, but it is a lot easier when you have someone telling you simple stuff like, how to start your seedlings, or, how to first prep your garden, little things like that. So, the first mistake I see people doing is they go to the garden center and purchase a seedlings there, I don't know how it is around here, but, down in South Carolina, tomatoes are brought to garden centers about a month, even, 5 weeks sometimes before our last frost. So, the new gardener goes and purchases these great looking plants and takes them home, puts them in the ground, and there's your first mistake. Not always, but sometimes these great looking plants have been just brought to the garden center from a greenhouse that had perfect conditions. The weather in there is at the right temperature. So when you first go and buy them, you buy them and you put them in the ground the same day. That same night could get a little chilly, and that's your first. The next day they might not even look that good. So, you have to keep in mind that if you're gonna go that route and buy seedlings from garden centers, you need to just assume that these plants haven't been adjusted to the outside conditions. They haven't been exposed to windy conditions. The wind can burn the leaves just like the sun can burn them. So these are things that you need to know. So if you're gonna go and buy, let's say, tomatoes, most people, that's what they go and buy, tomatoes or peppers. You need to take them home. But the first thing you need to do is you need to be aware of your last frost date for that spring. That'll give you an idea of, is it safe to put them on the ground, or do I need to keep them in the shade? So the first thing that I would do is know your first frost and your last frost. Once you know your first frost, or your last frost rather, you have a better idea of when they should go in the ground. You got to remember that not only the weather has to be, warm, but the soil must be warm also. So, those are things that you want to keep in mind. Anyways, when you purchase these plants, I would suggest that you take them home and put them up against something that's going to protect them from high winds. It's always going to get windy before it really warms up. So, keep this in mind. And you want to keep them up against something that, like your house, or just a building that would protect them from really high winds. Once you've done this for a week, now you have to remember, you have to water these plants once they're outside just about every day. So, if you're planning on going away, make sure you got someone that's gonna water them for you. These plants will need to get water, depending on the size of the container, at least once a day. So, keep that in mind. Once you've done these, for a week, you can start introducing them to the sunlight. But I would do it for 2 hours at a time. And also, you have to be aware that, it might get cold for a night or two. So, be prepared to bring them indoors if you need to. So, once you've done these you need to do this for at least a week. An hour at a time. Every day you can increase to 2 hours. The next day maybe 3 hours. And you can tell if the leaves are looking like they're getting whitish, that means they're getting burned by the sun. So you might want to cut back on the time and keep doing this for at least a week. I would suggest you do it for 2 if you can. That will increase your chances of having a successful experience, growing plants, even if you bought the seedlings from garden centers. So keep these things in mind. Instead of you going out and going to garden centers and buying these seedlings, buy it from places like out here, where they have heirlooms. I know you guys know what a hybrid is. The hybrids, that's really all the garden centers are going to have. Now they're beginning to carry more heirlooms, which is a good thing, and that's because people are actually asking for them. I have nothing against hybrids. There's, I believe, healthy varieties out there. But I believe, most of these hybrids are really intended for the commercial grower. The reason for this is they're not the most flavorful. They're, they've been bred to resist, bumps and bruises. They've been, bred to be shipped from, from one state to another. So flavor is their last thing on the commercial grower. So, that's why I think you should try to, if you're gonna buy it from a garden center, buy heirloom varieties, which, they have better flavor. There's a reason why they've been around for such a long time, and that's one of them. So, keep that in mind.